All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel again. Thank y'all so much for coming over, man. Now we back for another Thomas Sowell on the current black culture. When he says current, I just want to know when was, because this video says it was uploaded a year ago, but I feel like this video might have been older than that. I just want to know when this interview was and what was the inspiration behind it. Again, I always have to say my disclaimer. All right. For those of you who don't know, I am from South Central LA. All right. Grew up a lot around a lot of gang violence, all that stuff. Like I said, you turn on the news and it was probably around the corner from my house or down the street or at the corner, I should say. So I was around it, and I chose not, to get involved in that gang life. I played a lot of sports. A lot of my friends, they chose the opposite, and a lot of them ain't here today or they're in jail. I got a lot of friends too that are successful, or when I say friends, I just people I knew growing up. A lot of us don't really talk like that anymore, but I mean, it's just part of life. But like I said, man, I just want to know what he has to say about this, because I feel like a lot of people that I know or I grew up with, a lot of people, when they see you get successful or just doing the right thing, they start hating on you. People get envious. Instead of going to get them things themselves, there's a lot of people that just like to take. All right, so enough of that. And let me just get into this because I want to see what this brother got to say. Again, appreciate all the love and support with you guys coming over, man. We ain't gonna waste no more time. Shout out to all the good humans. Let's jump right into it.
When I grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s, I never heard a gunshot.
Harlem. Never heard a gunshot? Wow.
Well, let me read what you say in your preface. You say, "Let me state here, and now that these essays do not mean, one, all Southern whites were or are rednecks; two, all black Americans today or in the past were or are black rednecks. One cannot predict, you write, much less forestall all the clever misinterpretations that others might put on one's words."
Wait, is this because I seen something when they were talking about black rednecks, right, which I thought was just crazy, like that, to actually even had that come, to say that out of my mouth. I'm just trying to make sure this isn't what I seen already.
The most that can be done is to alert honest people to the problem. Black rednecks, who are they?
These would be blacks who came out of the Southern culture and who carried that culture with them north into the urban ghettos and into the ghettos of the South, for that matter, and who have not moved out of that culture since. Over the years, both blacks and whites have moved away from that culture. But in the poorest and worst of the ghetto areas, there are lots of people who have not. And these kinds of, it's a culture which didn't do whites any good, and it's certainly not doing blacks any good today. And the tragedy is that people regard this culture as somehow the authentic black culture, and therefore you're not.
Not to cut the brother off, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. So I live out here in Chino Hills now. And when people travel, they always talk about like a culture shock. Like when we went to Italy for like a month, and the culture shock was coming back here because out there people just seem so chill. But I will say this: when I moved from LA out here, I was feeling a little. It just felt weird to walk around, and because where I live at, you don't really see no graffiti. You don't really see people driving like bumping loud music. You don't see a lot of like homeless people, just stuff like that's the stuff I'm used to seeing when I go to LA. You know what I mean? So it took me a while to get used to, you know. But yeah, back into it.
Which didn't do whites any good, and it's certainly not doing blacks any good today. And the tragedy is that people regard this culture as somehow the authentic black culture, and therefore you're not to interfere with it.
I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from.
Black English is considered not quite proper English. On the other hand, if blacks happen to have all the power,
you talking about Ebonics?
Own all the corporations, and whites were working for them, it would be the other way around.
There was a period, I'm trying to remember now, I believe it was in the mid-70s.
Well, I love my Ebonics. I ain't gonna lie. Well, I love my Ebonics because if that's what they talk about, because sometimes, boy, people be saying so, you be like, what? And they're like, nah, hey, he talking in Ebonics. I get what they're saying, though. I get what they're saying.
When substandard English began to become began to become viewed as a discipline of its own within linguistic studies and so forth. And for all I know, it was all perfectly legitimate that certain speech patterns would be traced back to various regions in Africa and so forth. And this is a language of its own. It has its own validity. But your argument would be, I don't really care what its validity is. It's holding people back. It's preventing them from participating in the wider society. Is that right?
Absolutely. And also, none of these things went back to Africa.
Oh, is that so?
No. You can. Yes, they did not go back to Africa. If you look at the peach, for example, using the word axe for ask and stuff like that, all of that goes back to the South.
Damn.
And it goes back to the parts.
Damn. Boy, I feel like he talking directly to me. My sister to this day still clowns me when I say that's what I said. Axe. It's just my grandparents are from the South. Now I will say this. So when he speaks, and I'm asking y'all who are fans of his, when he speaks, is this coming from a place of truth? Like, I've said in previous videos that it seemed like the brother does a lot of research to find this out. I'm just wondering how true that is, because to get on here and just lie would be just insane. So, because I know a lot of people I found out, I didn't even know, but I found out the brother's conservative. Again, I already tell you I don't give a damn because I don't lean left or right. So I just want to hear the truth, But I just want to make sure that this is the truth and not just an opinion,
Britain, from which white Southerners came. So if you trace the calling hog entrails chitlins, that was in a certain section of Britain, the section from which whites moved into the South.
Really?
And they were known as rednecks and crackers in Britain in centuries past, before they ever set foot in the South. So the whole thing is as phony as the $3 bill.
In Intellectuals and Race, you cite an observation by the intelligence expert, IQ scientist James Flynn, that just stopped me cold. After the Second World War, you've got large numbers of American troops remaining in Germany. For that matter, there's still several tens of thousands there today. And both black and white American soldiers had children with German women. And Flynn discovered that those children growing up in Germany showed no IQ differences at all. The black kids and the white kids, the same. Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of black soldiers in Germany grew up in a nation with no black subculture, close quote. Which means what? Which means they experienced exactly the same expectations. Is this
No, the expectations are external. The culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which black kids grew up in America today.
So they had...
There's no gangster rap. That was pervasively available in Germany.
So
Now, you know, I hate to keep pausing, but I just have to, because I don't want to forget. Um, Grew up listening to NWA. Snoop Dogg to this day is still my favorite rapper. You know, I will say this. I will say this. And this just even sounds crazy to say, but gangster rap, what was considered gangster rap back then, isn't what it is today. I feel that there aren't any real gangsters left. It's all a facade. You know, most of the real ones are in jail or dead. Today is more like clout chasers, all right? And these artists are so influential that this generation just eats it up. You know what I mean? You know, because when I be hearing like Drake rap like kind of gangster, I'm like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? You look at people like Ja Morant. Come on, bro. You know what I mean? So it's about clout, uh, and getting people, like, I'm telling you, that's what they push out. But gangster music back then, what they were talking about, they were really doing. Now, not so much. But I understand what he's saying, that if you live in an area where all that's being played, that's all you being showed, of course you're gonna adapt to that. Like, it's happening today. You know, you got like TikTok, you know, all it takes is one video to go viral and then the whole world is doing it. Definitely get that.
here's what I'm getting. There is something about black subculture in America today that holds African Americans themselves back.
Yes, because that very same subculture held whites in the South back as well. That in the time, this mental testing in the First World War turned up, among other things, the fact that whites from various 4 or 5 southern states scored lower on the mental test than blacks from 4 or 5 northern states. And so it really was a question of the subculture that was there, which was a handicap to both.
How this subculture.
I could go on for days about the social degeneration, but let me give you just one quick example. When I grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s, I never heard a gunshot. Now, I'm sure
That's
someone fired a
crazy.
gun somewhere in Harlem, but it was not such a pervasive thing that you had to hear it.
I would hear them every night in LA.
I have relatives in Washington. I asked them the same question. People of my generation.
Growing up in Washington, D.C.
Yes, and low-income black neighborhoods. Did you ever hear a gunshot when you were growing up? And the answer was no. I have relatives in North Carolina. I asked the same question. No. And now, you know, people in housing projects especially, they put kids, some of them, to bed in bathtubs so that they won't be hit by stray bullets in the night. Now we take it for granted that there's tremendous levels of crime and violence in the black community. That was not always the case. In the 20s, it was very common for white celebrities, including George Gershwin and William Faulkner, to go up to Harlem not only for entertainment places, but to go into private homes of people they knew. And Gershwin would play Rhapsody in Blue in this home where Walter White lived. Milton Friedman, when he was a graduate student at Columbia, he and the lady he later married would go dancing at the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem. And he said, we had no fear of being mugged or accosted on the street or anything like that.
I've heard you say, Tom, when you were a boy growing up in Harlem yourself, your own neighborhood felt totally safe to you.
Not totally safe. I wouldn't exaggerate, but there's nothing resembling today. I mean, I did sleep on hot nights. I would sleep out on the fire escape. When I tell people in Harlem that today, they think I'm from another galaxy, you know. But that people slept on the fire escapes in New York and in the public parks in the 30s, all over the city. Because it was not a jungle. And you could run through a great number of other things. Children raised without.
Damn. You know, he said it's not a jungle. It's crazy too, because I grew up in the jungles. For those of you who may not be aware, it's a place in LA. They call it the jungle. It's like almost like the projects. And I grew up living on. I was talking to my mother a while back because I said, I remember you dressed me up like Gizmo from Gremlins. I had a vision. I seen my picture. I know that picture's long gone. I think it got burnt down in our house fire, but I was dressed up like Gizmo for Halloween when I went to Hillcrest Elementary School, and my mother used to walk me to school. But I lived on 4040 Cocoa in the jungles. So hearing him say that, it's people sleeping on. Do you imagine today, boy, you be getting hit by all types of stray bullets, man. The thing in LA, my mother used to always tell me is bullets ain't got no name. So a bullet may not be meant for you, but it might hit you if you're in the wrong place at the right time. Man.
2 parents present. That was about 22% in 1960. One generation later, it was 67%, and it's gone up a little since then as well. And now the rate among whites is higher than it was among blacks in 1960.
Right.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take
I hated this.
responsibility.
Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These are our brothers and sisters,
Our friends, our family.
I absolutely hated, and I don't hate a lot of things. I hated this when it came out, mainly because I know it wasn't genuine. You know, everybody, like, come on, man. Come on. Like when people were kneeling down, I was like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? Oh man. Like, come on, man. Like, this was absolutely ridiculous when I saw this. I was like, you have got to be, I don't need nobody feeling like they need to apologize to me for something they didn't have nothing to do with. You know what I mean? It was cringe. I hate the word cringe, but this was cringe.
We are done watching them die.
How do you define a white liberal?
Those kinds of people who have the kinds of attitudes that are called liberal in the United States, although the word is misused, those people have created an atmosphere in which these counterproductive cultures are to be celebrated, perpetuated, and the consequences overlooked. It reminds me of a scene in the Blue Max where this general is encouraging this daredevil pilot to do all kinds of wild stunts, you see, knowing that the guy's going to kill himself if he keeps doing this, and therefore the general will be rid of a political problem. Now, I don't think that the white liberals are doing this deliberately, but I think the net results are the same. They are cheering blacks on and doing things that are absolutely self-destructive.
One of the things I
Race
discovered in the
hustlers.
research for my book I'm currently working on is that leaders of groups that are lagging in countries around the world almost invariably have counterproductive policies for them. And it makes perfect sense because insofar as members of lagging groups assimilate into the values and achievements of the larger society, they don't need those leaders. I mean, there's no mystery to me as to why Jesse Jackson says what he does, or Al Sharpton and others, because that benefits them, but it does not benefit the people they lead. And all the incentives are for leaders to lead people into things that don't help the people, but help the leaders.
What you'd create an. There would be an exception for Dr. King, though, wouldn't there?
Yes, but
he
one of the things
was different because he was earliest, or what? Why? What's different about
Well,
him?
it's
Tom?
like insurgent movements in general. When an insurgency starts off, by definition, it has an uphill battle. Now, and you can look at the history of Christianity, for heaven's sake. If you're going to be a Christian in the Roman Empire, you know, before in the first century, you had a lot of grief to go through. Now, but after Christianity becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire, this is a bonanza, and there's a lot to be done. And so now you will follow policies that are the opposite of what you advocated. You will see that with all kinds of other insurgent movements.
Somewhere, watching this interview, there's a young Thomas Sowell. There's an African American who's smart and wants to do something with his life. It seems to me we've already got one piece of advice you'd offer to him is stay away from the races industry. Stay away from the race hustlers. What advice would you give a young Thomas Sowell? How do you make something of yourself as an African American in America today?
The way anybody else would. You equip yourself with skills that people are willing to pay for.
Oh, yeah, he said that in that other one. Yeah, I gotta make sure, because this video seemed a little similar to that one I watched. But let me just say this, man. I feel like when I hear this brother speak, I mean, I hope I feel like that would be a lot to get on here and talk about stuff that ain't true, that ain't got. I love saying meat on the bone, you know, just talking about something with some substance versus like an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. You know, my whole problem with the world today is I don't like people speaking on things that they have no experience on. You know, it's one thing to watch TV and be like, huh, but I'm talking about actually been through physically, mentally, all that stuff, you know. I'm trying to find ways to just bridge the gap. Like, you can ask anybody who has met me in real life. In real life, I said this before. I'm one of the most chillest, coolest people you will ever meet. And, you know, I just don't like all the division in the world. It seems to me when I watch this brother speak that he's trying to let people know that, you know, you can do anything you put your mind to as long as you put the work in and be consistent, and like not letting people like the victimhood, the victim role. I don't understand. I really don't understand why people feel they need to apologize for something they had nothing to do. That's so crazy. Like, that's like me going into like the grocery store and somebody just like stole something and just ran out the store. And I'm coming in there to shop and I go up to them and say, I'm sorry for what just happened. Like, I ain't had nothing, you know, I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. I don't know, man. I always say this, do I feel racism in the world still exists? Yes. There's a lot of evil people out there. Like I said, the older I get, I'll be 43 this July. Your circle just gets really small, man. It does, because you just start weeding out people in your life that really just, you know, if people just be in your life for the wrong reason, man, ain't helping you become a better person, just whatever, you know. I post video like this, and you gonna get those comments, people saying this, people saying that. Look, man, I tell people this: if you don't want to watch the video, don't watch. If you feel like you gotta subscribe, do what you gotta do. I don't look at this video as a like political video. This is just a black man. To me, it seems just trying to tell black people, like, surround yourself with the right people. Because this is coming from me, all right? Born and raised in South Central. And a lot of stuff he was saying in here, I witnessed with my own eyes, all right? But then you have someone who ain't been through nothing trying to tell me how to be black. All right, man. Again, appreciate all the love and support with you guys coming over, man. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Peace out.